This is a download from Rutland Radio.
Hello, and thank you for downloading the Rutland Radio podcast from rutlandradio.co.uk. This is where you can hear the best bits from the last week.
Yes, it's John Parker.
And we're in a kind of, I think of this a hidden secret of Liddington. I had no idea. I'd seen the trees. I had no idea how it was created. Tell us how this all started as a woodland and what you were trying to do with it.
Well, I was very keen on trees, and we started the planting of the woodland in 1991. They're all deciduous trees with one or two minor exceptions, such as holly. And we did the planting over 5 years, and all the planting was done with what is known as whips, which is bare root, which is about 2 feet tall, and as you will see later on, the trees are now 30 or 40 feet high, and we're doing some thinning. And it's been very, very successful. The area of the trees is about 135 acres, and approximately 97,500 trees and shrubs.
For such a rural area, Rutland is actually quite sparsely populated as far as forest and collections of trees.
Well, I know about that because when I bought the land, this land was white on the Ordnance Survey map. It's now green, which is, very nice. But you're right, there are very, very few big woodlands in Rutland. As regards the Wildflower meadow, this is about 12 acres. And it's a 20-80% mix, so 80% of fescue grasses. You grow the weak grasses, you don't want the strong grasses because they will overpower the wildflower meadows. And there's about 20 different varieties of wildflower. And in the wildflower meadow we've created this pond which you can see now. That was done by a man with a bulldozer, who was an artist with the front of the bulldozer, and he made up the banks with the mud that he dug out, and then all the surrounding planting, which you can't really see at this time of year, but the rushes and the lilies and things like this came from Norfolk, from a school where the kids collected all the plants and got apparently very muddy in the process. But obviously had a great time. And my lady woodland consultant came with me and we did the planting ourselves, and she fell in the pond, which was quite amusing. She's got very little sense of humour.
Dear.
And the wildflower meadow is at its best at the end of May, beginning of June. There are flowers that go on longer than that, but that's the optimum time to see it. And we do open the gardens once every 2 years with the other gardens in Liddington, and people are very welcome to walk round. And there are paths cut through the wildflower meadow because the grasses grow reasonably tall, so you need paths to be able to see what you're doing. Now, one of the important things with the wildflower meadow is that you've got to establish a species called yellow rattle. Yellow rattle is a parasite on grass, and that will thin the grass where it grows so that it enables other flowers to seed. Now, the maintenance of the wildflower meadow, we cut about the 3rd week of August. It depends on the season, but it's either the 2nd or 3rd week of August. When we've cut, we turn the cuttings twice so that the seed shakes out and you start reseeding again, and then the arisings or the cuttings are taken off and used for hay.
So 1991, this was all fields here.
All of it were fields, yes, and to create this wildflower meadow we had to spray off all of the weed and grasses that were on it, and then we sowed the wildflower meadow, as I'd indicated, with 20-80% mix, and we did that in the September of 1991, and they had just finished sowing when we had the most torrential rain for a week. I mean, there was rivulets coming down the side. I mean, it's on a slope, but rivulets coming down the slope. And it washed a lot of the seed down to the bottom. The result was, come the April, the seed merchant who had sold me the seeds, who comes from Wellingborough, a chap called John Chambers, he's won about 5 gold medals at Chelsea. We did some reseeding, and that's now established quite okay. So that's basically how it all started.
And the number of trees that you've planted since then is quite a staggering number.
Yes, well, it was done over 5 years. I can't claim the credit for having done the planting, which was very back-aching, but it was done by some contractors whom my woodland consultant employed, and they were experienced people, so they knew what to do. One of the interesting things about the woodland is that you'll find with big plantations they tend to plant in straight rows. We don't do that here because it's not natural. It's obviously easier for maintenance, but it's not natural. So all the rows are curves, not straight rows, so that you look so far and then suddenly you'll see a tree, so you can't see up a row, which is, as I said, not natural.
97,500 trees was
and shrubs,
quoted.
yes, trees and shrubs. I should explain, on the ride edges, we have rides going through the woods. On the ride edges you grow shrubs, and the reason you do that is because if you just plant trees you get a wall effect, whereas if you plant shrubs at the edge you get the green foliage coming down from the canopy of the tree down through the shrubs to the grass, and that creates a better effect. And of course the shrubs are very, very good for bird life. So the whole area is actually being managed for birds.
Well, that was my next question, really. Have you noticed this change in the balance of nature and the creatures that actually visit here?
Yes, certainly regarding the bird life. We had a count done 2 years ago by a guy that used to work with the RSPB, and he's doing one this year, but 2 years ago he identified over 30 species of bird here, and he's only allowed to record them if he's either seen them or heard them. And for instance, he didn't record owl, and I know very well we've got owl, we've got heron, and he didn't see the heron. So, you know, there's more than 30 species of bird here, and the whole forest, as I said, is being managed with birds in mind.
How do you feel having made such a vast contribution? I know, as you said, you've not made it single-handedly, but have led this change in the landscape. I mean, this is something people can see from miles and miles. And am I right in thinking that the bridle way actually passes through, that goes sort of Thorpe Road end?
The bridle way goes from Liddington to Seaton, so you're on the edge of the woodland there. But we do have walks through the woodland, basically for the village to raise funds either for the church or more usually for the village hall, or we actually have walking groups that apply, and they come round and have a walk, and it takes about an hour and a half to walk through the trees. So the people seem to be terribly interested in why you're doing it and how you're doing it, because obviously there's quite an art in getting it right.
Could I ask that question? Why? I mean, it's a wonderful thing to have done.
Well, I think I've always been fond of nature, and I think if you've got the wherewithal, it's quite nice to put something back. And I personally get a lot of pleasure particularly in the winter when we do most of the woodland work, of going out there and just enjoying myself. It's just wonderful, and very, very refreshing. And of course it's good for the carbon intake.
So although this is a private woodland scheme, it does have a lot of pre-arranged access.
Yes, the access must be pre-arranged, because you can get lost.
I can imagine. So remind us of 135 acres.
Yes, it's 135 acres, and there's a perimeter path or ride that goes round, which is not always passable. It depends what work we're doing, but the rides between the plantations, and it's very interesting just to walk round and stand still and listen, because you can see lots of birds.
John Parker, thank you very much for taking the time to show me this. I know we've got more to see, but it just seems incredible that not that many people would even know its roots. That's a terrible pun to make. I didn't mean to make a pun about that, but they wouldn't know where it was created and why and what its future holds.
No, I mean, I think most people in the village obviously know, because we've got a very good village hall network, and particularly the kids, which they come on the Easter walk and the Christmas walks and have great fun. And this last Christmas, I think we had about 20 children coming round, which was lovely.
Rutland Radio.
I'm Ramsey Ross. I'm the treasurer of the Rotary Club in Uppingham, and we're organising this year's Ibrook Walk.
It's in its 9th year, and people often think about going round Rutland Water. Actually going round Ibrook Reservoir is not only a nice alternative, but helps raise some money for your causes as well.
That's correct, and it's significantly shorter as well for those of us who are not particularly enthusiastic walkers. And I went round the reservoir last Thursday, and even after all of the rain that we had, the paths were perfectly passable with a decent pair of strong shoes.
So it's around 6 to 7 miles, isn't it?
It's about 6.5 miles.
If people want to join you on this walk, I know you'd like them to pre-register via your website.
But it's fine if people just come down, Rob, at the lay-by at Stoke Dry, just at the bottom of the hill. We will have tables there and marshals from the club, and we're happy to register people on the day for the walk. So there's no problem with that at all.
It's 10 till 12 on the Sunday, the 4th of March, when registrations open broadly.
That's correct. We'll be careful.
That was a puddle. We're not on the official path at the moment.
Slightly wet feet. The marshals will be there from just after 9:30.
Really, people can take as long as they like. There's no massive time pressure on it.
No, and typically people come with families. It should be seen as a family day out. It's not some time trial that we're engaged in at all.
Tell us who you're raising money for and who the Rotary's raising money for through this.
Well, primarily we have over the past 9 years raised money for Loros in Leicester. We have been supportive of them for a number of years, not simply through the walk, but it's the primary source of fundraising for us.
And then there's the Rotary campaign for polio as well.
That's correct. That is one of the Rotary charities which has been supported by Bill Gates and his wife. We're now down to single-figure numbers with polio. We will have another fundraising event for polio at the end of October.
So if people want to find out more, then uppinghamrotary.org, and it takes you straight through, doesn't it?
That's correct. And so if you go onto our website, you can register for the walk through the website, or as we've said earlier, you can register on the day at Stoke Dry.
It's a beautiful walk to have done. I've just remembered we are actually walking on an actual road here, which obviously people need to remember on the day. It's not totally just paths for pedestrians.
No, it isn't, but we have it well marshalled and signposted throughout, and traffic recognises the fact that there are people walking on the road.
And it's just a beautiful part of the area as well.
It's a lovely part of the world. It's not just for the benefit of fishermen, and we're getting to the time of year when the flowers will be starting to come through. It's the 4th of March, Rob, as you know, and we'll just be out a week before the fishing season opens here on the reservoir.
That's the Ibrook Walk, organised by the Rotary Club of Uppingham, and Ramsey Ross. Thanks for joining us on Rutland Radio here today at the actual event.
Many thanks, Rob. Take care.
Highlights from the past 7 days, the Rutland Radio podcast.
Is that Rob?
It is, yes.
How are you today?
Yes, I'm fine, thank you. You went past our building a few days ago, and I didn't even know you were in town.
I'm really excited to speak to you because I loved Oakham.
Oh, good. I'm really pleased.
What a lovely place. I'd never known about it in any context whatsoever, and I had so much fun. People were absolutely lovely.
Now, you were playing a bit of live music in Bill's Bar on Wednesday night, I see, because they shared that.
I did. A little open mic night there, and it was terrific, yeah.
and then on the following day you were chatting to people on Oakham High Street. What did they tell you about our town then?
Well, what they said, Rob, was that I had to go and have a pippin.
From Hambleton, yes, the Rutland
That's the
pippin,
one.
yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Apple and
It was
pork, isn't it?
delicious, absolutely delicious. In fact, I had a couple of really amazing pies. The other one was from the butchers on the high street, where they take a normal pork pie and they take the top off it and wedge in Stilton instead. Oh, my God. That was just fantastic. So, yeah, we ate very well.
So it was food and music heaven for you, was it?
It was pretty much, which is as good as it gets.
Now, we're speaking to you at the camping, caravan and motorhome show over at the NEC. It runs right the way through this week. So what excites you most about camping, Matt? What sort of camper are you?
I am a camper vanner. In fact, I brought my van to Oakham. I've got a very small camper van, and suddenly you see some of these like behemoths out there that are just huge, like 6 berths with a shower and toilet, and, well, I can dream. You know.
And I suppose actually then you haven't got the hassle of having to find somewhere to park it, because not everyone's got to drive that big, Matt. I'm sure you have, but...
Yeah, vast.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. No, I don't. I don't live in Rutland. I have
well,
a very...
I do, but our drive isn't that big. But anyway... Yeah. Have I missed you a bit about O for Oakham on the A to Z of Towns, by the way?
It's not been out yet.
Oh,
it's
good.
not been out.
I'm so glad.
It's one of my favourites. You know, we see the gallows. What can I say? We go to Rutland Water. It's one of my favourites. We have a really good time in Oakham.
Rutland Radio.
Lydia Patsalides, East Midlands Regional Manager for Crime Stoppers.
Now, today, this rural crime event in Rutland, you wanted to get everyone together to discuss what's... People think, I suppose, rural crime comes further down the list than those in cities sometimes, don't they?
That might be people's perceptions, but in actual fact I think it's just as important as anything. Any crime that takes place in a rural area is referred to as a rural crime. So it could be the same type of crime that takes place in a city. There are just those additional crimes within a rural community that you wouldn't get within a city or urban area.
So what sort of things do you mean?
Such as plant theft, plant machinery theft, such as hair coursing and poaching, such as the arson of hay bales, just to name a few.
You've had a really good attendance today. You must be really pleased that so many people want to actually find out how they can actually prevent crime. Absolutely.
It's great to see that everybody's so interested in the community and wants to get together to talk about it and to talk about how we can work together on different strategies. This could be one of many. Fingers crossed it'll be something that we'll do again in the future.
Rutland Radio's best bits on the podcast.
My name's Nick Woodrow. I'm a sergeant with the local policing directorate at Leicestershire Police.
Now, we're here at this rural crime seminar today. I was mentioning to Crime Stoppers that maybe rural crime could be lower down the patch. It is tougher, isn't it, for the police in a rural area, because a lot of the time the resources do go to the city, for the night time particularly, but you're just as committed to the rural area, would you say?
Most certainly. I think you've hit the nail on the head. We are committed towards rural crime and rural locations. I think the big thing that creates issues for the police service is quite simply the geography, the distance between locations. Hopefully what we've tried to achieve today is not only with the attendance of Lord Back, who's got rural crime on his PCC agenda, but also making sure that people feel that they've got a voice and also an understanding of the part that they play within rural crime, making sure that they're that extra set of eyes and ears to tell us of things. What we would like to do is encourage people to make sure they are picking up the phone. If something's going on, tell us about it, and hopefully we can either plan for things and make sure that we've got resources in the right location or an awareness of it, or we might even be in a position to attend it.
And farm owners are quite well connected in Rutland, as you may well have heard today.
I would say that it's been encouraging to see so many people who are either landowners, farm owners, all coming together and making sure that they're all picking up the messages. We've had messages from Crime Stoppers, ourselves, Data Tag and companies, making sure that hopefully they've got the right information to put the right crime prevention device in place and ensure that we've got joint messages going out to hopefully address some of the fear of crime and give them confidence around reporting and make sure that they are in a position where they feel confident around the services that are available.
I heard earlier that rural crime basically means anything in a rural area such as Rutland. It's not just the sort of farm thefts, but from a farm perspective, it's quite a vulnerable position to be in, isn't it? With lots of highly expensive equipment, which is there in various buildings, and at night can be quite vulnerable.
Yeah, I would urge anybody that does own, and we're looking at the minute at a tractor that's worth £250,000, taking some of those rudimentary, simple crime prevention measures, making sure you're not leaving the keys in the vehicle, consider having a tracking device on it, making sure it's registered. All those things are hopefully preventative measures that might make it so your vehicle doesn't get attacked or it doesn't get stolen. Once those things have been reported, then hopefully we can address it and recover that vehicle, but it's taking those preventative measures that we prefer people to do.
Rutland Radio.
I'm Willie Bark, and I'm the Police and Crime Commissioner for Leicester, Leicestershire and, of course, Rutland.
Now, we're here talking rural crime today. It's often thought that a lot of the police resources have to go into the city, particularly in the nighttime economy. You've now introduced more funding. You've managed to get £1 more per council tax bill for the police. Will that really make a difference?
Very much hope so. We managed to protect 52 jobs. 52 police officers would have retired, and if we hadn't had a bit more cash and taken some from reserves, their places would not have been filled. And we were also adding another 24 police officers to the Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland force, 3 of whom will go into each of the force areas. So I'm very much hoping that they will see a difference. It's not a massive difference, but you will see one. We're still very short of funding, it's true to say, but things are slightly easier than they were, and that's really important. And of course, we've devolved some of the policing beyond neighbourhood policing to outside the city now, and that's really important. But of course, the test is whether we succeed in doing what we can to stop rural crime, which I know is, of course, a great anxiety to all those who live in the countryside in Rutland, whether farmers or otherwise.
And how's public support been? Because no one wants to pay anymore, especially with council tax bills going up anyway.
I'm very much aware of this, and a lot of people in Rutland, as well as in other parts of the area, have suffered from austerity, and their wages have not gone up very much in the last 10 years or so. So it's a really tough call. The police part of council tax is pretty small still, but I know it won't be easy for some people. But actually, if we're going to have a proper police force that gives security to everyone who lives in this region, in this area, then we do need to do this. And I'm glad to say the Police and Crime Panel voted unanimously in order to support the budget. And we did do a short public consultation, and 71% of those said they were prepared to pay the extra £12 a year.
The weekly Rutland Radio podcast.
Max, Robin, Jemima, Felix, Georgia, Iris, Sarah, Johan, Daniel, Thomas, Dylan.
Tell us your schools.
Uppingham CV, Brookhill, Whissendine, Lowfield, Langham, Brook Priory, St Nick's, St Mary's, Whissendine, Oakham CV.
How does it feel flying the flag for Rutland then? You've done it before?
Yeah, I did last year.
So what happens then over your tour?
Well, we go up today, then tomorrow we play matches, and then Saturday we go around Twickenham Stadium and we watch Harlequins play.
And you actually get to stay with host families as well, don't you?
Yes.
Is everyone staying in like different places?
You can go in pairs, so for instance me and Johan are going to one host family and then other people go in different pairs.
Are you all watching the Six Nations at the moment?
Yeah.
You're quite excited. How do you think we're doing?
We're the best.
Yeah? Is it all going well for us?
We just need to beat Ireland and we've got it in the bag.
So do you know who you're going to be playing? Because you play schools from different countries, don't you? Is that how it works?
Italy,
Wales,
France.
Yeah.
And do you reckon you can win?
Yes!
Well, good luck. We're counting on you.
Thank you.
Have a great time.
Thank you.
Rutland Radio.
Right, my name's Tim Appleton. I'm the organiser and founder of the Bird Fair, originally known as the British Birdwatching Fair.
And what a staggering amount of money you're giving to BirdLife International as of today.
Unbelievable. I mean, for a start, since we started Bird Fair nearly 30 years ago, we've given them about £4.5 million. And today, we announced £333,000 profit from the 3-day event that many of people I know from Rutland, Leicestershire and surrounding counties come to in August each year. This is £333,000, which is phenomenal. And that money, believe it or not, isn't going to stay in Britain. It's going to go across the world, almost as far as you could go, to a tiny, tiny little island called Rapa-Iti in the French Polynesian Pacific. And the idea is that this money will be used for several reasons. First of all, Rapa-Iti is unbelievably important for seabirds. The local people used to tell us that the sun was literally obliterated by the sheer numbers. But sadly, with man's intervention, introducing rats and cattle and all sorts of creatures, most of the seabirds have gone because either the habitat's disappeared or they've been killed by the rats. So we'll be helping to change the balance, bring back the seabirds. We're also going to put £100,000 into training young people in that sort of region of the world to become young leaders, to become senior leaders in the future. They'll be working with our programme, the leadership programme. We're really excited. This is a sort of new legacy for Bird Fair. So every year we'll put £100,000 in training, people who could be the Minister of their Environment in their country in 20, 30 years' time. And then 100,000 will go into advocacy. Basically, what we've done, we're supporting what they call an IBA, an important bird area. Now, these are critically important areas around the world. There's over 13,000 of them, and several of them are now critically endangered because, again, they haven't got the proper protection, habitat loss. So this is what we'd be doing. We're trying to, in each of the continents we work, last year it was in Africa, and of course this year we've announced that we're going to be working in South America, in Argentina. I'll come to that in a moment. So this is really what Bird Fair is all about. It's trying to identify with BirdLife International areas of the world that are becoming degraded through lots and lots of different reasons. And then today we announced that we're going to be supporting an IBA, an important bird area in Argentina called Marcachita. Now this is probably something that no one's ever heard of, but it's the largest saline lake in the whole of South America. It's probably the second largest lake, in fact, in the whole of South America. It has millions of birds using it, some resident, some migratory. There are 3 species of beautiful flamingos, and now as the publicity comes about people around the world, and hopefully in Rutland, everyone will see this incredible bird, or these species, and we're going to be protecting this, working with the Argentinian National Park Service to create 1 million safe hectares on this massive lake. It's a phenomenal area. We're so excited, and we're going to half fund a visitor centre there as well, because local people will benefit from the site as a major ecotourism, and once the national park is declared, then it'll become funded by the Argentinian government, and of course that'll put a lot more money into safeguarding it.
It really is, in so many ways, little acorns growing into such phenomenal things. And 30 years this year that the Bird Fair, of course, started.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, I can't believe it. And it all started when I visited the game fair when it was a beaver, and I saw game fair. Bird Fair. Why not? And, really it's become the world's largest wildlife event. It's in Rutland. It's around the edges of Rutland Water Nature Reserve, on the edge of the reservoir. And, I mean, this year there was, or last year I should say now, of course, in 2017, 70 different countries were exhibiting. There were 24,500 people enjoying this event over the 3 days. And, it's become the sort of, almost like, I think I have become the grandfather of bird fairs around the world. I've just come back from India. I'm off next week to another bird fair in Spain and so on. And so we're able to help promote bird fairs as a way of engaging the local communities, instructing people about the whole wildlife ethics, and really just helping in many ways, hopefully, to raise monies. And the lovely thing about this Argentinian project is it's got a wonderful story. Have you got time for a wonderful story?
Yes, okay, yeah.
Go, I'll tell you. It's going to be called the Araucanía National Park. And Arathanea was a wonderful goddess who looked after this lake, but she was a demon. She, would kill anybody who came into her lake. So one day this handsome warrior arrived and she threatened him, and they had a major battle, and in his dying breath she looked into his eyes and thought, my goodness me, I've fallen desperately in love with this man, oh my gosh, and he dies. So she cries and cries and cries, and her salty tears turn the lake into a saline lake. And of course, that's what it is today. But the gods took pity on her and said, right, okay, well, what can we do for you? And so they decided to reincarnate the warrior as a flamingo, which of course live on saline and salty lakes. So it's a lovely story, and I'm sure that'll feature heavily in our publicity this year.
And the artwork was unveiled today of the brochure with that pink flamingo on the front.
Oh, incredible. Carrie Ackroyd, who's an artist that lives on the border of our counties, has created the images, and there are 3 beautiful flamingos on the lake, and people will start seeing this soon. It's just an incredible image that I'm sure will capture the imagination of visitors from around the world.
So that's mid-August, 17th to the 19th?
It is. Well done, you've done your homework. Brilliant, thank you very much. And I hope to see a lot of you there, because this is special, yeah. This is 30 years, and hopefully by that time we'll have raised more than £5 million in these tiny little fields on this amazing nature reserve, helping global conservation. Together, we can do so much.
Highlights from the past 7 days, the Rutland Radio Podcast.
Hi, I'm Tracy Palmer, and I work at Mind in Oakham. I'm currently on the outlook for volunteers any day of the week, and I also am in need of stock, bric-a-brac, ladies' clothes, children's clothes, any really.
With the staff, what will they be doing? Is it front of shop or in the back?
It can be either. It can either be the front on the till, or it can be out the back helping sort clothes and steam. There's no maximum hours required. I'm quite happy, an hour, 4 hours, all day if they require.
Rutland Radio.
A lovely springish day. We're still in winter, but it's like spring today. The sun's out, it's dry, and I'm with the Queen of Stamford in Bloom, Anne Ellis. How are you doing, Anne?
All right, it's all going well, really.
So the Keep Britain Tidy scheme, that's coming up soon. So what have you been doing with the group?
Well, I've started organising which days we work, because the Keep Britain Tidy is between the 2nd and the 4th of March, which is a weekend. And our group normally works Monday, Tuesdays. So we'll try and do something probably on the Monday morning to clear up the mess. But that's all we're doing. It's a matter of just picking up the litter, clearing your patch, and sweeping as much as you can. But right now in the winter, we're finding that the weeds come up nicely because they're all wet. And so we just pull them out, and then we don't have to use any chemicals or anything. But you can get your waste bags and things from your local authority, but you have to go on to Keep Britain Tidy website to find that out.
So why is it important for us all to kind of chip in and make sure that we keep our area tidy?
Well, it's only a little bit. If everybody does a little bit, it all just looks fine, and then it saves teams of people having to go out to clear up. It's just clean your own patch. It makes it not only look better, but it's healthier, and it will get better drainage, so you have fewer puddles and things like that. So it's a good thing. It makes people feel better if their surroundings look good. And we know that from the comments we get from people as they go by. They like to see we're doing something, so people do appreciate it.
And if anyone wants to get involved in Stamford in Bloom, you meet on Mondays and Tuesdays, usually in the morning. So how can they get involved?
Well, there's a Gmail address, which is stamford18bloom@gmail.com, and then we have Instagram, Twitter and Facebook under Stamford in Bloom. You can look it up there.
Rutland Radio's best bits on the podcast.
At the BAFTAs this year, there was a category for short best film, and in that category was Wren Boys, a film shot in and around Oakham. So Rutland made it to the BAFTAs, meaning local Rutlanders got to go. So I caught up with Anthony Frith, who did the hair and makeup. So what happened then? Talk me through the day. Where did you film and what went on over there?
So we filmed up at the Enterprise Park. We did a couple of other locations in the area, some kind of cathedrals, churches, things like that. And we also went out into the woods in the area as well. It was spread over about a week, very full on, but very kind of, you didn't realise how quick the day went until you were actually on set. So much packed into it. Yeah, it was an amazing experience, it really was.
I've seen the trailer and it looks really thrilling actually, quite chilling and quite a thriller. So can you tell me a little bit about Rimboys?
Yeah, so it's based about kind of the changings of tradition and how certain people aren't always kind of as open to those traditions. The actual premise of the film is very much based around that of a Catholic priest who ends up showing some support for same-sex marriage. And it very much kind of reflects people's opinions on that topic.
And it's great that we had this actually being filmed in Rutland, but then another great thing was that it went to the BAFTAs, which was incredible. Was it the short film it was up for?
Yes, so it was nominated for British Best Short Film. It's also premiered at London Film Festival. It was selected to show at Sundance as well, so it's doing amazingly well. No one really kind of pictured how much it would take off, so it's really, really exciting.
And you actually got to go to the BAFTAs, so what was it like?
Oh, it was amazing, it really was. So I ended up going to the screening. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford to go to the actual ceremony itself, but the screening was absolutely incredible. Met so many people, made loads of really good contacts, and actually made loads of really good friends as well through the whole experience.
So do you see the film, do you have a screening before the ceremony? Is that kind of how it works, and then you can see the film, or they go to the BAFTAs?
Yeah. So you go to the screening. Everyone that worked on the film kind of has an invite, but they do have kind of very limited places.
How did it feel when you were watching the film at the screening and you knew that you were part of this massive thing?
It was really surreal, especially because I've only really been doing makeup for about 2 years now, all self-taught, so it's such a massive achievement and I'm so thrilled with how it all went.
Rutland Radio.
Well, my name is Jan Warren and I'm General Dog's Body, so I do all the administration.
My name is Rutland Horn. Most people know me as Russ, it's easy to remember. I'm the acting chairman of the Rutland Neighbourhood Watch and I'm on the board, and I am the representative of the board with Jan in developing the app, although she's the technical person and it's her idea, not mine. So I help, let's put it like that.
So the app, was it last year when it launched? Has it been a year already?
It was November 2016.
Wow, so it's been over a year then.
Yeah. And last year, at the same time, we updated the app, so we gave it a fresh look. And we've also since then introduced some new items.
Can you tell me about these new items?
Well, a significant one is Heritage Watch. Heritage Watch has been put together with the police, and we now have a link on the app under reporting crime. And it relates to churches and the common problems of thefts from churches, and also monuments and heritage buildings. So if people see anything suspicious, they can photograph it, they can video it, people, vehicles, whatever, and they can go onto the link and send a report directly to the police, which has never been possible before. But of course, if there is a crime in progress, like with all things, that's 999. We now have Rutland Neighbourhood Watch website, and that is getting referrals. I mean, it's been going for about 10 days, 20 days, and it's had 3,000 hits in the last 10 days, which is really quite a lot for a website. So they're all referred from the app. So they're items that come up on the app, which have a link, and people go back to the website to read more about it.
What we've done right from the start, but in the modifications we've made, is to develop the victim support side as well. Any type of victim, whether it be victim support, child abuse, drugs, these are now brought together for quick access. There are things we still want to do, but I think it's a lot more logical now, and it certainly looks we're very pleased with the look anyway, let's put it like that. We're a bit biased.
And it was the first of its kind.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
It never existed before. But now it's starting to be picked up by other people. Hinckley have just gone live with their own app, which is based on ours. They use the same people, the app office in Nottingham, and we didn't copyright the platform. So any neighbourhood watch anywhere in the country could use it. With the help of the app office, we've recently linked into it a web app, which is still basically under construction, but there is no app that Windows phones can use unless it's a Windows app. So the others just don't work on Windows. And this way, Windows can use it. And at the moment, it's interactive on the burger bar side, which is access top left. And it used to be more on the right, but now it's top left on the new format. And we're working on getting the front screen live as well. So it means that everyone can access it.
It's free to anyone, resident or working in Rutland. It's not free to us, but it's free to them. But the point I was going to say was that when they check the App Store, if they search under Rutland Neighbourhood Watch, that will bring it up, and they just download it quite simply as they would any other app.
Highlights from the past 7 days, the Rutland Radio Podcast.
So Gilbert's in Uppingham. It's been going for 57 years.
57 years.
I'm with Kath Gilbert now. How are you feeling about retiring after this long?
Well, sad and excited at the same time.
Of course, you're a busy lady, so you've always been used to being on the go, with obviously with the furniture and store. Yes. But I did read that furniture store, it wasn't always your plan in life.
Definitely not. I bought 4 cottages and I was going to rent one out furnished. The only thing I was missing was a bed. I went to the auction with no idea how much beds would be because there were very few furniture shops at that time, and I took £8 with me. I bought the first bed for £2 and had £6 left to get the mattress. The second bed that came up, they wanted £1 for with a mattress. So I thought, well, I'll buy that one. I was willing to pay £8 for one, so I'll put it in the paper shop and see what happens. Well, the next bedstead a bit further along in the auction came up, and it was 2 and 6pence. And I don't know how many people coming to buy this bed, and they were all asking me if I went back to the auctions, would I get them one? But then I had a friend, Bob Hamblin, who owned this building here. He was pestering me to take the shop and leave my job. I kept saying to him, there's no way I'm going to give up my job. I'm doing this as a sideline. Eventually I weakened and decided that I'd take it, and I'd open it just in the evenings for an hour. The first evening I sold everything in the shop. I had no more money, and people were quarrelling over who was going to have the table and chairs that was in the shop. So I said, well, I'll go back and I'll get you one next week. A year after I'd given up my job, some people came to look at a shop in the high street to do new furniture from, and I was petrified. I thought, I'm going to be out of business and I've left my job. But rang the bank manager, wrote the cheque out, my hand was shaking, $3,750, got the shop bought. I then got to stock it. I then approached different manufacturers with the backing of my bank manager, who gave me references, and they supplied me with furniture on tick. And then that took off. So I'd got the 2 shops, and I've never looked back really since.
Right, so I'll leave you in peace, but just want to ask you if you want to say anything to any of your customers from over the years.
Oh yes, of course, they've all been wonderful. Without them there wouldn't have been a business. It's making me sad now.
Castor, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Well, that's it for this week's Rutland Radio podcast. If you have any comments, you can email us via the website rutlandradio.co.uk, and we'll have a new version on our website from Monday.
This is a download from Rutland Radio. For more information, go to rutlandradio.co.uk.